it's awesome to have you here. We really appreciate you guys coming out and pulling the curtain back a little bit on what you've been up to. Tesla is sort of known for not, getting out there and putting a lot of information until it's time, and you're ready to do so. So I guess that's my first question. Why now? Why is this the time to come out and talk about all this?
Yeah, I mean, when we first unveiled this product in 2017, Tesla was a fraction of the company that it is today. We had just launched Model 3, we were in the ramp of that production. Model S and X, while great vehicles, were niche products. And since then, we have stood up a lot. We now have the fast charging infrastructure I talked about. We've launched an enormous and very successful energy storage business. But also, we have developed and launched the literal best-selling car in the world. Not best-selling EV, but the Model Y is the best-selling car in the world. All of that effort, that has really been emblematic of Tesla's overall growth and maturity. And I think that now, everything that was done over that time period to build that business has actually put us in a much better position to serve this industry better. Since we transitioned out of that massive growth phase, and now we're into turning our head towards new products again. We're really putting everything together into things like Semi, and we saw it all come together initially in the pilot fleet, and now we're taking those learnings and we are actively improving the high volume design. And so it's exciting to be here because we get to share a little bit about what we've been doing and hint at that high volume design, which before we just didn't have the requisite underpinnings of running that fleet for a year to do so.
So I want to follow up. You mentioned in your talk the miles that you've been running from the battery plant down to Fremont, and you mentioned Donner Pass, in the cold and the snow, the heat of the desert, but Donner Pass is snowy and cold, but this isn't northern Alberta, let's say, in the middle of winter, or Alaska, or some of the places that are really bone-chilling cold. At the same time, the dry Nevada desert is not South Florida in August, right? So what have you done to really test beyond your own routes to make sure that this truck, when it goes out into the rest of the real world, is ready to go?
Yeah, those miles primarily are done by everything we have on the over-the-road fleets, but ultimately we push the engineering side of it equally hard. And this past winter we took a few semis up to Alaska, drove around, did a bunch of work up there. We spent a lot of time over the years at winter test proving grounds. And some of that is doing specific maneuvers, developing traction control, and other very targeted developments. But this year we actually got out on public road, ran at minus 35 Fahrenheit, well, Celsius, they're basically the same at that point. But we really spent a lot of time in the cold, and because we really understand the need to stretch the vehicle across all the various operating conditions. And similarly, on the hot side last summer, we actually came down to not very far from here, spent a good amount of time in and around the Las Vegas, Death Valley area. We spent a bunch of time on Baker Grade, got some great data when it was 115, 120 out, and we really like to push the vehicle to its absolute limit. And it sweated, but it did really well. And we think that the whole Tesla ecosystem, because we design so much of the vehicle, we don't farm out a lot, where we develop hardware and software across the EV powertrain to work together to get the maximum performance across all those various conditions and ensure the vehicle is not just capable but also predictable and reliable. We spent a lot of time refining that, and I think that we've collected a lot of data, but we're going to keep stressing it as we go to high volume.
So is there Ice Road Truckers semi-edition coming out?
I'd be all for it. Yeah, sure, why not?
Call me, I'll go.
Yeah, okay, great.
I want to touch on the hardware-software integration. And something you mentioned in your slides is that the average efficiency that you're seeing is 1.7 kilowatts per mile.
Correct.
That's a pretty good number.
Yeah.
Is part of that due to the software-hardware marriage that you've had on the light-duty side? How much of that carries over to semi?
Absolutely, and it's everything from, sometimes it's literal code. We work in the same code base on the software side, and sometimes it's the same parts. In the current Semi, the thermal compressor that we use that takes care of the cabin cooling as well as taking the temperature, it's the same compressor that we use in literally every single vehicle worldwide. It's the same thermal system. It's this really high efficient heat pump system that we've leveraged that massive volume, which gives us huge amounts of confidence and reliability to put it into a vehicle like semi. And we've really worked, it's an unrelenting chase to account for every watt hour in the vehicle and understand how is it being consumed and are we doing so productively. And the majority of your energy consumption goes towards just fighting aero and then fighting the road load of tires and rolling resistance. But we spent a lot of time even on the heat pump side and the thermal side to ensure that those systems, while they're a tiny amount of general operating energy, are fully optimized and are all working together so that we can hit those efficiency targets. And those are going to get better.
Impressive. You also mentioned, as you expand the production facility, and there's just sort of generally more integration happening, that you're going to accelerate the payback for customers. And I know when the product was first announced in 2017, there was a comment about 20% cost savings right off the bat. I just wonder if I could dig in a little bit more on that immediate payback for customers. And what are some of the other ways that you guys are working with customers to help make sure that the product fits in the right application and does get them that cost savings off the bat and over the life of that asset?
Yeah, and I mean, obviously every operational lane and customer is a little different depending on what they can do. But there's a lot of things that we can do and bring to the table. And I mentioned one big thing. I mean, charging infrastructure seems like this daunting piece of the puzzle, and that's just part of the total cost when it comes to going to electric. But we're spending a lot of effort in developing charging hardware that is very specialized to reducing the amount of hardware we have to put into the ground, so that reduces cost. And again, this is stuff that's all designed in-house, manufactured in-house at Tesla. And we don't want to pass some crazy energy and infrastructure liability on our customers. We want to make sure that we unlock a positive business case. And so we do things like driving down the infrastructure costs. But another thing when working with our customers, we look is how do we take the maximum utilization of that infrastructure? What can we do on a scheduling side to ensure that we can get maximum number of trucks through that infrastructure? Because if you can just take that same investment and divide it over more trucks, it lowers your costs. And so that's where having that whole ecosystem work together is really clean. And then lastly, on the energy side, there's a lot of levers that we can pull on the energy storage business. We have our commercial energy products, the Mega Pack, available, and that can be deployed to do a variety of things. That can do peak shaving, it can help with rate scheduling, as well as just resiliency. And so that's an opportunity to continue to refine and improve operations for our customers. So in addition to just driving down costs generally, we see this as the entire lifetime of the vehicle. How do we make sure that you're going to reap the maximum benefit at the lowest cost?
So let's talk about customers. Pepsi is the one that obviously gets the recognition all the time, but we've recently seen a few pictures. I think I saw a Costco logo on a semi, and there was you put out the tweet about Martin Brower.
Yep.
It's good to see some more customers getting behind the wheel, but how are you approaching that customer base? There's a long list of folks I'm sure have signed up, and everyone wants to be next, but how are you approaching customers in terms of how you roll this out at this point?
Yeah, I mean, PepsiCo has been a great partner, and we see a lot of promise early on with the private fleets. They just have a number of things, whether that's because they have their own vehicles as well as employ their drivers, plus control over their cargo and facilities that really makes that initial transition to electrification a little bit more seamless. We see that early in the private fleets, but we are really trying to make a general product that serves everybody. And there's definitely a massive amount of interest in the other parts of the trucking ecosystem. And we've been doing customer demos, as you've called out, with a variety of customer types, be it truckload, LTL, drayage, we've done food services, and we're really trying to stretch this and understand not just what type of industry we can serve well, but also what is the operational fit for these and how do we complement that with not just the right vehicle product, but charging infrastructure as well. So we're willing to work with anybody that is looking like we are at how do we go to scale. And we're definitely working through, I shared a number of the fleets here. I've had conversations with our business development team as we've been going through that reservation list, and we'll be continuing to expand it. But those demos are proving to be very valuable. And for anybody that is interested in really getting a chance to see how it can fit in their operations and wants to go to high volume and really take over a large portion of their fleet with electric, that's who we see a lot of success with, and we invite them to participate.
So I'm sure there's a long list of customers, your business development team is working with them, but what about beyond that? 12 years ago, I bought my Tesla at the mall, which was a surreal experience to go to a mall to buy a car, but that's how it works. How is this going to work going forward? I assume fleet customers aren't going to go to the mall and buy the semi, but
No.
how do they get in line? How do they buy it?
Yeah, I mean, we still have the ability to at least contact us and talk about that, but it'll be a similar experience to how we do this on the car side. Talk directly with Tesla. That's it. We really believe that having that relationship from initial lead all the way through to delivery directly with us puts us in the best position to provide a product that will make the customer's operation successful. So yeah, it doesn't matter if it's going to be a large or small customer. We envision the ability to serve them directly and want to make that process as seamless and painless as possible.
You mentioned in the presentation you're building the manufacturing plant, and I think you mentioned kind of units per year, but what should a customer expect right now in terms of raising their hand and be like, hey, I'd like to buy 25, and when do we think we'll start to see deliveries and sort of more scaling of the semi?
Yeah, so I mean, we are building more trucks this year. As I mentioned, we're delivering another 50 currently to PepsiCo, and then we're putting more trucks into our own operations, but we are actually set to deliver some this year to some other customers as well. And then going forward, when we talk high volume, really it's in that 2026 is when we'll be starting additional customer deliveries with that version of the truck and scaling from there. And so then it's really about working on the things that enable that delivery, not just the vehicle itself, but it's all the supporting things. It's charging, it's service, and working through those pieces. I can't emphasize this enough. Please talk to us early about charging. It does take a long time. It's doable. We have the experience to back it up, but it does take time, and that's pretty much the first question out of our mouth is, where do you run trucks, and how do you envision charging working? And then we work with you from there.
You kind of pulled the question out of me before I asked it. Is, thinking about 2026 and scaling, are you already working with customers to then start to look at their locations, engage with the utilities? We know that process can be quite a long period, especially, I don't know, I guess the question maybe here is a little bit more, what are you seeing as far as power demand from some of the sort of typical customers that you think you're going to be first serving? I know we've done a lot of work with fleets and with the yards that need 20 megawatts or more. The utility says, sure, we'll get you in 2030, no problem, right? How are you bridging that gap with some of the customers that you plan to serve, and what kind of power demands are you seeing with the charging infrastructure that you're going to need? Obviously, there's no one-size-fits-all here, but maybe give us a few ideas on what that looks like.
Yeah, I mean, charging is really we have to figure out the right fit to support that operation. And I talked a lot about fast charging, that we continue to see that what fast charging enables is you to get your truck back up and running. And if you can do that in a slipstream environment, that's great. But we also understand that for some operations, that's just not feasible. Sometimes single shift, just because of the end customers that you as a fleet are serving, only support a single shift worth of operations. And that's fine. And we have other solutions that we can do at a lower power charging in order to enable that. But we really feel like fast charging is important. And regardless, I mean, the total site power that we bring to the site, it doesn't really change if you're fast or slow charging, because you're still trying to recover the same amount of energy. It's just a matter of you're doing it quickly or not. And we tend to look at this in blocks. 3 megawatts is a common block because of the way that utilities bring secondary services onto sites. So we can see that increment from there, 3, 6, 9, up to 12 megawatts in secondary feeds. Once you get above that, you really start to dip into the toe of primary service, and that can usually involve substantially larger infrastructure projects, substation upgrades, etc. If that's what it takes, then we're 100% on board. We've worked with utilities through substation upgrades in multiple jurisdictions. Something we're very comfortable with. But we really see a wide variety in terms of the amount of megawatts that need to come to a site. It just depends on how many trucks are domiciled, how many trucks are passing through, and what the energy requirement is for that particular site.
We could ask an hour's worth of questions on infrastructure, but we're limited on time here this afternoon. I want to ask quickly about maintenance and service and technician training. How are you handling that? I mean, fleets generally, they love to do it themselves. They've got great teams. They want to train them and educate them. Let them do it. They don't want to send them to the shop. So how's this going to work in the semi world?
Yeah, on our light duty side, we really stood up our own service, and for a number of reasons. And one of them is just to make sure that everybody had a really quality experience, and also because, unfortunately, in the light duty side, a lot of dealers and whatnot, they try to extract exorbitant profit out of a service arrangement, where it's okay, we're going to sell you a car, but we really account for the lifetime revenue. That's not the way that we look at this on the light duty side, and we're applying the same thing to heavy duty, where we want to make sure that service is there for when you need it. The world introduces chaos, you have to repair your vehicle. But it's not a goal to be a major profit center for the company. And so we want to take lessons like that from the light duty side, but we are not looking to do everything ourselves on the heavy duty side. There is a robust amount of infrastructure, whether that is with an individual fleet doing their own service or working with third parties that can support heavy duty. And there will be an opportunity for that. And actually right now we're working closely with PepsiCo. They are taking on more and more of the semi-service. Frankly, like, I don't want to mess with wheels and tires. Anybody can do wheels and tires, please take that. But there's all the way stuff that's like purely Tesla proprietary that yes, we'll be involved, we'll come out, we'll bring mobile service to help with the operation. But if your fleet or your business has a service division that you want to empower and enable, we can figure out what that balance is between what you do versus what Tesla does, so that we can scale it effectively and provide you with the right tools, physical or virtual, so that you can take on those jobs and do so reliably and successfully.
It was mentioned on the panel here that some of these fleets are sort of looking regionally, because that's where the infrastructure is. And I say infrastructure, not just chargers or fuel pumps or whatever, but like technician know-how, parts and service, the facility, all those sorts of things, right? It's an ecosystem of infrastructure that we need to make sure that these products continue to run. So I'm just wondering, geographically, right now Pepsi is running in Sacramento and Modesto, and California is obviously a pretty big hub for your guys' operations as well. But how do you look at the landscape as far as sales, support, charging infrastructure from a geographic? Is it U.S. and Canada? Is there, California, west of the Mississippi? Is it, and internationally as well, for that matter?
Yeah, I mean, Tesla has big ambitions with the Semi for sure, and in order to achieve those ambitions, we cannot resign ourselves to a particularly small geography. Yeah. I think everybody here understands the importance of California and the other West Coast states, Oregon and Washington, because of the economic solutions that they provide, but also there's a lot of just general momentum and knowledge about EVs in that area, whether it's for additional training or where we're putting infrastructure in now. So I think we'll continue to see those states be really on the forefront. But we're trying to solve for a general use case. And we have large operations in Texas that we want to leverage as well, where we have a big factory there, plus a lot of cross-border traffic in Mexico. So we really see an opportunity down in the Texas area. And then frankly, there's a lot of other, we might call it scattered geographies. Georgia comes to mind, Illinois, where there's definitely a lot of potential. And that it's a combination of things. One is the economics. Two is that where we think we can work within utility timeframes. By the way, if any utilities are listening, please take note of where we're talking about going and get ready. But also, it's where there's a lot of trucks, and we want to go where the trucks are. And eventually, yeah, we see a huge opportunity for the Semi, particularly in Europe. But for right now, we're focused on the initial ramp and launch here in North America.
Excellent. I do want to go back one question on infrastructure is the issue of interoperability.
Yeah.
We've got some initial big heavy-duty charging stations out there. I know this has been a big issue on the light-duty side. So where does the Semi align as far as interoperability with charging?
Yeah, so I mean, this is a great question, and thankfully, I've got a great example of how Tesla thinks about this, and that is on the light-duty side. We have opened up our supercharger network, and now every major OEM on the automotive side has committed to transitioning to the North American Charging Standard, NACS. And that's been a huge win, and I highly encourage everybody to look at that and talk to us if you're interested in supporting those vehicles that are compatible with the supercharger network, or where NACS makes sense. Please stop putting CCS1 into the ground. Please stop. I say that all seriously. But we really view interoperability as key. This is a really important point for widespread electrification. Everything has to plug into everything. That's the only way this works in medium and heavy-duty trucking. So we really view that we're going to make sure that Tesla is in line with whatever the accepted industry standard is. Right now, when you look at the truck, we're going to see an early version of the megawatt charging system, MCS. We just had to go. We were not going to wait for the full codified standard to get through all the committees and approvals and everything. We just had to run. We needed to put something into the ground, and we had this design. Tesla submitted one with the charging group for MCS, and we really wanted to make that happen. So we're a firm believer that when we go to scale, when we go to high volume, the interoperability is something that we really prioritize. But right now, the current semis aren't necessarily compatible with anything else out there.
I know we're already over time on the flag me, but I'm going to stay here as long as I can.
These are comfy chairs.
Yeah, they're not bad, right? It takes a lot to make these decisions. It's exciting. I mean, it's a really exciting time to be in the industry, whether it's Tesla or anything that's going on. It's incredible to see the progress and the commitment and that integration that we saw at the last panel. It's awesome, but it's hard. This stuff does not come easily. So, what are the big challenges? What keeps you up at night? Thinking about this is the thing we really got to solve, not only for Tesla but for the industry more broadly. What's the big solve still out there that we got to work on this year?
Yeah. How do I put this? Because without talking too extensively about infrastructure again, but infrastructure is definitely one of those pieces. But I think more broadly, it's that. And I understand this might seem a little daunting, but I think there's a lot of parallels that we can learn from what happened in the light duty side. If we go back 15 years, if we were screaming, you should be developing vehicles that are purpose-built EVs, this idea of being a powertrain agnostic design does not lead to compelling vehicles. And we've seen this play out now in the light duty side with some of the offerings from other OEMs. And so when I think about that, we need other folks to dive fully into EV. And I understand that over time, it's not like a fleet is literally going to one day transition the entire fleet over. But I encourage everybody to challenge the historical norms. If you're an OEM, develop a fully purpose EV. If you're a fleet, look at ways about how you scale faster than, I want to demo 1 truck for a year. Okay, now I'm going to demo 10 trucks for a year. And now I'm going to demo 100 trucks for a year. You're going to be half a decade behind all of the people that are looking to go faster. And so when I look at the challenges, it's really about getting the industry to understand, for rightful reasons, this is your business, this is your way of life. And you're looking at ways of how do I transition my fleet, my business sustainably, but also profitably. And I really encourage everybody that's involved in this, be it fleets to OEMs and everybody in between, look at how you go to electric at scale quickly, because by doing that, you unlock those savings faster. It is daunting, but leverage the data, leverage the learnings from other parts of the industry. I think that is something that when we talk about the challenges, I think it's really about getting everybody to understand that going in with both feet is really the key unlock, and that's what I want to help.
No toe in the water, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Right on.
Thank you for succinctly putting it.
Yeah. Last question. I always love to sort of finish with a little bit of a visioning, and so obviously we touched a little bit on the vision and the grand plans and where you guys want to go and kind of how you're going to get there. But fast forward, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, and now looking back, what's the semi program look like, and what's maybe the broad industry landscape look like to you?
I mean, really, we want to make sure at that point that Tesla is a major heavy trucking OEM, and that we have successfully helped our customers and all of heavy-duty transport transition to electrification. And frankly, I hope that that's something that is not just, again, done by us, but we inspire others to come along this journey with us. And the entire industry decarbonizes and we get to sustainable transport as quickly as we can. And over that time period, Tesla is a major part in making that happen. So we, like I said at the top, we do not enter this lightly, and we've got big ambitions, and we're here to stay and want to make that happen for everybody involved.
Terrific. Well, again, thank you for being here. This has been tremendous, and I know you've got the semi here, and it's in the ride and drive, so look forward to seeing how things roll out in the years ahead. So thanks again. It's great to have you. Super. Appreciate it. Thank you.